Hello again, I am Blunty. This is the ViewSonic XG2703-GS, and I've had it here on my desk using it as my main screen for a few months now. And today, finally, a little bit overdue if I'm honest with you, my verdict on if it's worth investing in. For those of you with teeny tiny attention spans, the answer is yes, it's friggin' amazing. For those of you interested in why it's so amazing, listen on. The ViewSonic XG2703-GS is a premium product aimed at hardcore gamers. Its big features to that end is triple play, starting with an IPS type panel followed by a resolution of 2560 by 1440 and with a knockout punch of a refresh rate of up to 165 Hz paired with G-Sync for flawlessly smooth frame rate display, utterly free of jitter and tearing all the way up there. And let me tell you right now, it is glorious. Now, my approach to evaluating monitors relies more on actually using it than the super technical approach of measuring it with gizmos to put numbers on a chart about color accuracy and the like. If you want that, that information is out there. It's easy enough to find. But if you want to know what it's like to live with, well, that's why I'm here. And for the sake of some comparative reference, I'll be doing a couple of side-by-side demos with my BenQ GL2460 monitor, which is frankly unfair, as the little BenQ with its TN panel is a lower-tier product, less than a quarter of the price of the ViewSonic. Of course, in every single way, the ViewSonic absolutely buries it. But I'm not comparing specific performance or anything like that. The BenQ is just my average example of a nice, affordable, quality 1080p 60Hz screen. The basic de facto standard for 90% of gamers out there. It's pretty decent and it's pretty cheap. And another note, these tests aren't exactly ideal as a way of showing you this, given that for a start, I'm filming a 165Hz screen at 120Hz to allow me to slow things down enough to make stuff a bit more obvious through the medium of a YouTube video, so there's a little discrepancy there alone. However, for directly comparative purposes, it'll do fine to illustrate the practical difference between the 60Hz your average monitor maxes at and the overclocked 165Hz the ViewSonic can ramp itself up to. Immediately, you can see the difference in smoothness of animation and movement, and while in real time it's a bit more subtle, of course, it's certainly something you really notice. But more than that, you feel it in games. Movement feels more immediate, it feels smoother, more responsive, snappier, cleaner. It really is less about consciously noticing the difference in how quickly the pixels do things, but in a kind of lower-level instinctive feel of the game. Along with the increase in frequency and consequent frame rate is the blur trails of moving objects. And of course, even with G-Sync on, eliminating nasty tearing on either case, panning across a scene feels much more kind of liquid. Finally, of course, at such a high frequency, flicker is nuked. Now, some people are more sensitive to flicker than others, but yeah, at this kind of frame rate, it's just not an issue anymore. Now again, all these tests show in various ways is something that many people really do feel more than they see. Everything from the Windows desktop to AAA gaming feels pretty great at 60Hz, which is why it's become something of a de facto standard and indeed goal to reach while gaming. But the difference between seeing every last frame of 60 FPS to having a monitor capable of showing you every single frame up to 165 FPS is a bit more subtle than the huge perceptual difference from 30 FPS to 60 FPS, for example, that drives so many PC master race versus console fanboy arguments. However, the benefits are real, measurable, easy to sense, and in the most basic terms, it just makes gaming look and feel very pleasant indeed. And tying all of this with G-Sync for your NVIDIA GPU, and yes, by the way, there is a FreeSync version of this very same monitor if you run with Team Red AMD cards, to keep your frame rate and screen refresh in lockstep to kill off all artifacts like tearing and stutter, make this a truly premium experience. And it's a similar kind of thing when you're moving from 1080p to 1440p. It's a more subtle shift than going directly to 4K, of course, but it's absolutely worth doing for a crisper, cleaner, clearer game world. And of course, not everyone can afford the hardware to actually run their games at 4K. And 1440p is of particular use to me and those of you who, like me, enjoy hosting Twitch streams. A 1440p monitor allows me to run the game in a 1080p window and have a nice chunk of spare screen real estate to the side for the Twitch chat next to it, and to scatter a few other useful things around. Now, I also use a secondary monitor, where I usually put the OBS streaming program itself, which makes it nice and easy to keep an eye on it. But even in a single monitor setup, 1440p makes streaming just a ton more convenient and easier. To the hardware of the monitor itself, it has a very handy 4-port USB 3.0 hub built right in, 2 ports on the back for devices likely to be permanently attached, like my webcam and my VR tracking camera, and 2 more on the side useful for non-permanent things, unless of course you want something permanently poking out the side, I suppose. Your primary input, at least if you want to use those high refresh rates and G-Sync, is the DisplayPort. But unlike many G-Sync monitors, you also get an HDMI port should you want to run a secondary source into the monitor, a games console perhaps. There's a headphone port, but it's not a pass-through port. This is tied into the monitor's own line because it actually also has its own, pretty basic but functionally useful built-in speakers, which means of course it has its own audio processing hardware built onto it. So if you do want to pull audio from this monitor, you don't have to stretch another set of cords from your computer's sound card into the monitor for the sake of pass-through. That's nice. The sound from its speakers is thin and uninspiring, as it is with pretty much every monitor or TV, in fact, with its own built-in speakers, but they are handy to have from time to time. There's also a headphone hook, but sadly that's on the monitor stand, which I am not actually using as I've got this one mounted on my twin monitor arm. The monitor stand itself is strong, has a nice elegant design, is height, tilt and rotation adjustable, very nice indeed actually. The on-screen display for the menus and quick select adjustments are made by rear side-mounted multifunction buttons. They're nicely tactile, easy to locate, and align well with the on-screen menus. I still hate this type of interface, frankly, where you have to feel around for buttons whose functions are always changing, but monitor makers have all unanimously decided that they'd rather have a clean front bezel than make their menus easier to use, so there's really no escaping this fumbling annoyance of buttons hidden behind the monitor. That said though, I do rather like the clean, clear layout of the on-screen menus themselves on this monitor. Everything is easy to get to, logically laid out, and I never had to go blindly poking around trying to find whatever it was I was after. As far as these basic on-screen menus go for monitors, this one is probably the best one I've used. Better yet, there's a metric ton of control over every possible aspect of the display you could want, even a full-on 6-axis color adjustment. You can even disable the 165Hz refresh rate and clock it back down to a more common 144Hz if you like. The only real reason for doing this is because the monitor runs slightly hotter when it overclocks its internals for the 165Hz refresh rate. So in theory at least, having it overclocked like this could very slightly reduce the total lifespan of the monitor. Not something I'm especially worried about, frankly. ViewSonic have, after all, been making computer monitors for longer than some of you have been alive. I myself had a basically unkillable CRT from back when flat screen stuff was still in its infancy, and I'm pretty secure in my trust of their quality. And they back that trust with a 3-year warranty too. When it comes to what it does with a 1080p input, whether you've got your game set to run at that resolution for the sake of performance or you're using the screen with your game console, you can either have the monitor scale it up so it fills the whole screen, which can make things look a little softer because 1080p does not scale precisely to 1440p like it can to 4K, or you can have the monitor do a pixel-for-pixel display, meaning you do get some wasted black space at the edges and you get a window box kind of presentation, but the image will be perfectly crisp, pixel perfect. Given that this is a 27-inch screen, the 1:1 option works pretty well. It doesn't make the image feel too small, but I usually go with the scaling mode, which is only really hugely obvious when it comes to smaller, sharper things like text, for example. Of course, you've got the usual list of ancillary features you'll see on many gaming-focused monitors too, including adaptive contrast, dark color enhancement, user customizable settings for different game types and desktop use, and blue light filter modes, all that kind of stuff. And finally, the response time is of course ultra fast, as you would expect it to be on a monitor marketed towards gamers. In conclusion, it's vivid, the colours are wonderful, it's sharp, beautiful, clean, it's got a 178-degree viewing angle. It is a great gaming monitor to invest in. It is, of course, hardly the cheapest option around, but as far as an investment goes in a really, truly great gaming monitor, well, it is a really true great gaming monitor. In fact, there is only one thing I don't like about it, and that is the fact that, by design, the top of the bezel has a slight arch to it. It's just a design choice, but it does mean that my web camera doesn't sit perfectly level unless I put it exactly in the center. That's literally the only complaint I have about this thing. Such a small thing, but it kind of bugs me sometimes, to be honest with you guys. Thanks for watching. I am Blunty, and I will catch you next time.